what a college football weekend it was.
Any win's a good win.
Yes.
And every loss is sort of explainable right now in the SEC.
The SEC is the NFL, where everyone's beating everyone.
They followed the formula almost to a T of how you get beat on the road.
Brian Kelly owes an apology to the media and to fans, and then he arrives and meets the moment. Unlike some top-tier quarterbacks across college football. Bravo. LSU, they get Clemson to begin the year. They get some wins, and Brian Kelly's all pissed off for greatness post-game when he's getting not even tough questions. I'm going to say tough questions. Getting questions he didn't want to answer. And, well, Chad, now he owes an apology based on what we saw.
Yeah, so let's, before we move forward, we have to go back, right? These are lessons in life. You got to look back. You got to be retrospective before we can move forward with what needs to happen next. So let's go back a few weeks to where LSU beat Florida at home in a game where LSU's defense was lights out and LSU's offense did absolutely nothing in a game where they got 5 interceptions from DJ Lagway, the opposing quarterback, and some reporter in Baton Rouge had the balls to ask about the problems with the offense after that LSU win, and here was Brian Kelly's response.
I know you love these immediate post-game sessions, but what are you seeing with your offense?
Stop. Really? Is that the first question? We won the game 20-10. Try another question. What do you want me to tell you? I just laid it out for you. We played the game to win the game. We played the game to win the game.
All right, how about third down then? What is going on with third down?
It's one game. Last game, we were great on third down. You're looking at this from the wrong perspective. LSU won the football game. Won the game. I don't know what you want from me. What do you want? You want us to win 70-0 against Florida to keep you happy?
No, I think people want to know why you can't run the ball.
We can run the ball. Did you see the last play of the game? That's all you need. You just need one. There's a ridiculous questions.
Bam,
and I'm getting tired of it. That football team just worked their tail off to get an SEC win, and you want to know what's wrong.
How dare you,
You know
reporters.
what? Yeah. You're spoiled. You're spoiled.
You're all spoiled.
This team is 17-1 at night. 17-1. Give them some respect. How about that? Give them some respect instead of micro-analyzing every little thing.
That's the word.
This is ridiculous. For a group of micro-seasoned
analyzing
reporters, that kind of question is so out of line.
So out of line. Question was so out of line, he got that upset about it. And at the time, we knew, I know why he's upset about this. Because he knows there's some truth to the question because the offense is struggling. Look, Garrett Nussmeier was a guy who everybody thought could win the Heisman coming into the season. He's been pedestrian. LSU put up 256 yards on Saturday against an Ole Miss defense that was giving up quite a bit, especially against the run. I said on Friday, the formula for LSU is to run the damn ball.
Yes.
And run it successfully and let their defense take over and get out of there with the win. I think holding Ole Miss to 24 points is doing the job. Defensively, you should win that game against Ole Miss if you hold them to 24 points. Instead, LSU manages to rush for 59 yards, 2.8 yards per rush, less than 3 yards per carry. So whether Brian Kelly likes the questions or not, he's going to keep getting them, and he should. Their offense is atrocious, and Brian Kelly owes that reporter yet another apology after Saturday's performance.
He's so pissed off, I think, because he's on the hot seat, and when they win, he's even getting questions like that. Now, his whole thing about you're going to open with this question, that's not tough.
By the way, and also the reporter does need to preface with, I know you hate these post-game questions, but here I go. Don't preface it with that. Just ask your question.
Yeah.
I didn't like the way the reporter started with, I know you hate answering questions, but what about the offense? Stop it. Stop it.
How dare you? But, if anyone's going to criticize this team, it's going to be me.
Right.
We learned that from any given Saturday.
Yeah, I will beat down this team psychologically. I don't need the media to do it for me. By the way, Ole Miss in that game, 14 penalties. That's a lot. They won the game and they committed 14 penalties, double the amount of LSU. It's a lot of penalties in one game.
Man, how about Kiffin with his quarterbacks, man?
It's
he
incredible.
Always finds a way. I mean, that's in college football right now, we're seeing really good coaching, figuring out how to win with certain guys who we're seeing that at Alabama, we're seeing that at Tennessee, Ole Miss. Across college football, some really good quarterback play and some really pedestrian play from top players going into the season. And I don't know, Kiffin deserves his flowers today. Now, the next big game, we'll see how Kiffin performs on the road. But, I mean, he made his case for why that game needs to be played at night. But it didn't need to be played at night. With games that we had.
They didn't need.
They stacked.
They didn't need the nightfall and the moonlight like LSU does apparently, because we got to pay them some more respect because they're 17-1 at night, as Brian Kelly told us.
How good is Ole Miss?
Speaking of how good is Kiffin with quarterbacks? Yeah. Trinidad Chambliss, a guy who didn't start until the third game of the season, is plus 1,500 for the Heisman. That's how good the transfer from Ferris State has been.
Touchdown.
And he's not the starting quarterback for Ole Miss. His odds are vastly better than Garrett Nussmeier, who's no longer even in consideration for Heisman Trophy. So if you want to look at preseason expectations, setting you up for disappointment or excitement, I think LSU is example number one right now in the SEC of everyone thought Nussmeier is a great pro prospect that had Heisman potential with great supporting cast around him, and instead he's nowhere to be seen on the board of the latest Vegas odds for Heisman Trophy. Meanwhile, Lane Kiffin's got his backup quarterback in the top 5 of Heisman odds right now. So terrific job by Lane Kiffin. Terrific job by Landry Kiffin for her plant of announcing the relationship with Whit Weeks of LSU. The week of the game, Whit Weeks responds by vomiting profusely in the first quarter of the game, which was incredible. And Lane Kiffin's response to a video being posted about that was also great.
How about him asking about the over?
Yeah, Kiffin gets it done again. Now, look, Ole Miss, they got to win something on the road.
I know.
That's something Lane Kiffin has not done. I don't think he's beat a ranked opponent on the road at Ole Miss in his entire time there. So they're going to have other tests along the way. But, hey, the first big one of the season, first big test completely passed with flying colors by Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss.
So you mentioned Lane Kiffin. So his record against AP top 10s, he's 8-24 overall. So what you're saying is those wins are coming at home.
Yeah, and look, if you are at Ole Miss, like
15-40
we're going to
overall,
get into another
25.
record of someone against the top 10. So
I looked this up, yeah.
Penn State and Ole Miss, which we'll pivot to Penn State.
Yep.
Vastly different programs. And I would say that if you win 8 games against AP top 10 at Ole Miss over any period of time, you're doing it
as a head coach.
You're doing that's Kiffin overall. Okay.
Yeah.
But regardless, like that's not a bad percentage at Ole Miss against the top 10.
It's 15-40 against the top 25.
Yeah, the problem with Kiffin is, and why he hasn't been able, like he's been great for Ole Miss, but why he hasn't really been able to be an elite to great program nationally at Ole Miss is they can't win a big road game.
And it's like the fourth down to seal it. Like they don't make that play on the road.
No.
They a couple years ago, what was it, 5-0 against 5-0 against Bama.
And
they got
blown
fast.
Out. Yeah.
I mean, it was no contest knockout. It was ruled over in the second round of a big title fight, and it was a big title fight with the whiteout.
Well, hold on quickly, Hutton, on Ole Miss's road schedule.
Yeah.
They go to Georgia and to Oklahoma in consecutive weeks in late October. Outside of that, they should be 10-2. Like, I don't see them losing. They get South Carolina at home. They play the Citadel. They get Florida at home. And they get a bye week before going to Mississippi State. That will be a tough game. Mississippi State is better than any of us thought coming in.
Yeah, and
that's going to be a tough one for Ole Miss. I think Mississippi State's going to be a tough out for most everyone, but that's always a tough game for both teams. So that's the one I would watch. But I think they lose at Georgia and at Oklahoma, and they probably end up 10-2.
Let's briefly just discuss it because we got Trey Wallace coming up. You mentioned last week, and really you've said this for like 4 or 5 weeks now. You felt like Tennessee had to get past Mississippi State. You felt like that could be the game that was like Arkansas last year, like the upset on the road, and it derails any path you had towards being the one of the leaders of the regular season in the SEC. Chad, the one thing I didn't factor in is how much this mattered to Mississippi State.
Yeah,
I mean the fan base was incredible. I still don't understand the cowbell and why that's whatever. It would be maddening to me if I'm any opponent, and that's why they do it. But it's also artificial noisemaker. Nonetheless, fantastic game, overtime win, and that's one of the Tennessee's like right there with Ole Miss, and like how we see the tide turning on who's leading the SEC week by week, not by month. Except Tennessee did this on the road compared to what Ole Miss is doing. That's what, if I'm comparing the two teams and the quarterback play, that to me is that's a difference maker in how I view the program. Tennessee's ahead of them, even though we see Ole Miss where they're ranked.
Yeah, it's a game that I think in years past, too, that Josh Heupel has found a way to lose. That's why I was so worried going into that one, because they followed the formula almost to a T of how you get beat on the road in a game like that. I mean, the opening mistake on the muff punt, after a quick 3 and out, you give up, you spot them 7 points on the road. You know, you got key turnovers, you got key points of the game. You give up the fake punt, but you get it right back with a defensive score.
The clock management,
The clock management was bad on Tennessee's part. Yeah, I was worried about it the whole time. And that was the most hype home atmosphere I've ever seen for a 3:15 SEC Network kickoff.
Yes.
To watch that game, it felt like a big-time game and big-time atmosphere.
Yes.
And Mississippi State's going to get up. They got over the hump already against Arizona State, a top 15 team. And Arizona State's won since then, so that's a really good win for Mississippi State at home. Tennessee found a way to avoid it, but my goodness, did Josh Heupel do everything in his power to lose that game with his clock management late. That was atrocious.
Yes.
I don't know how you explain that. You've got 2 timeouts in a minute 23, and you run 7 plays for 33 yards and run out of time at midfield
and you
without even a kick attempt to win it?
And correct me if I'm wrong, right before half, he could have stopped the clock, right?
Yes.
Try to get the ball back.
It's 4th and 4. And he thought that Levy was actually going to go from like the 30, their own 35. Right. And I'm thinking, he's not going to go for it.
No.
Call timeout.
Yeah. So, again.
And they successfully faked him out to act like they were going to go for it to where the clock went all the way down. It was a bad game for Josh. I thought the offensive game plan was fine. I think defensively, Tennessee's got to figure a lot of things out. Bottom line is they win in a hostile environment where they did everything to lose. Yet, like Georgia a couple weeks before, Tennessee made all the plays late. They found a way to make 4 to 5 more plays than Mississippi State.
With quarterback play with a guy that's been there for 3 months.
Yeah, and I think the message is easy for Josh Heupel after the game is, look, you didn't play your best. I certainly wasn't at my best. We get a week off. Let's go get better, because that's not good enough, but yet we found a way to win on the road. Good job. I'll be better moving forward. You got to fall on the sword a little bit with your team if you're Heupel.
And here comes the gauntlet, which is every schedule right now. Just one more briefly. If you have Notre Dame on your schedule and you get a win, that is massive right now based on what we saw. It's not a surprise that Notre Dame beat Arkansas. It's the way they went in and beat them down. Think about the atmosphere 2 years ago, 3 years ago now? 2 years ago. Arkansas hosted Texas, right?
Yeah.
And we know how that game was.
I think it may have been like 3 or 4 years ago, but I remember the night.
And just knowing Notre Dame's coming to town and how Fayetteville had to be, like pregame, all that stuff. And for that performance, I mean, I blame the whole deal with, you've got a coach trying to negotiate his way in as the interim and all this stuff, and Pittman's on the hot seat. Last year, that team would have played for Pittman. And I felt like everything was flat, and they caught a buzzsaw for a team that did not want to lose their 3rd game already. Notre Dame's good, very well coached, good, not great, and I thought Arkansas would show up more than what they did, and Pittman's out.
Great performance by Notre Dame. I do not want to hear about a 10-2 Notre Dame getting in over a 9-3 team with a legitimate schedule.
No.
Their schedule forward is illegitimate.
It is.
That was the best win they could get. USC is not that good.
No.
USC is the embodiment of soft as a program.
0-2,
under Lincoln Riley. They
25.
showed it again against Illinois.
Right.
I do not want to hear a thing from a single Notre Dame fan about, I don't care what they do. They could win every game 70-0 moving forward. They do not deserve a spot in the playoff. They do not.
And
you don't have a single good win.
I know. And they will end up making their case and getting in because of the perception of the preseason rankings and who they are, right? I brought this up with Vandy. Vanderbilt, they could end up being a 9-3 team, and they won't get in.
They need to be in over Notre Dame.
I totally agree. Based on this, it's not if you lose, it's how you lose. But based on schedule, Notre Dame will beat down people like this, and they're going to receive a lot of hype over the next 2 months that, won't it won't be equal in the measurement of the team compared to what we saw early on, because even their losses were viewed as solid losses because they're Notre Dame.
Well,
they're top 25 at 0-2.
I'm just going to put this into perspective,
Chad, that
too.
means they're getting in.
I'm going to put this into perspective. Tennessee is 4-1, and they haven't even got to the meat of their schedule yet. They already have 2 wins that are better than any win Notre Dame can have on the season.
Yes.
By beating Syracuse at a neutral site, they get them at home. Notre Dame does. And by winning at Mississippi State in overtime, those are 2 better wins than Notre Dame can get on this schedule. They've got Boise State, NC State, USC all at home. Then they go to Boston College, Navy at home, at Pitt, Syracuse, at Stanford. That is miserable.
And they're on national TV
That
every
is
week.
an American Athletic Conference level schedule from here on out.
Conference
I don't
USA
hear
would
about
love that schedule.
Yes.
You know, but there will be.
I mean, does Kentucky win out with that schedule?
Probably not.
They win all but 1 or 2. I bet. Kentucky.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, there's no argument. And look, they were great, and they've been resilient. They bounced back with Marcus Freeman, but they're not.
We were saying this at 0-2, not after we saw this against Arkansas. Like they beat them down, but I mean, they're only 4.5-point favorites on the road.
Yeah, it was a dominating performance.
That humiliating loss. Pittman's out. And if you bet him, you win over Napier.
But I'm going to go ahead and tell you right now, they will get in at 10-2.
They will,
because the arguments are look at the metrics
10-2.
and look at the scores and look.
They're
at
0-2. They're in the top 25. Like that's the perception of
that 28-point win at home over NC State really
and what
showed us
they
a
did
lot.
last year.
Yeah.
You know, which brings us to Penn State, who had a chance to beat down and go to the national championship game. They had to get through Notre Dame last year. They could not do it. Drew Aller was bad. And he threw that pick with a chance to go and tie the game, win the game late?
Tie
the game. Or maybe it was tied and then Notre Dame kicked a field goal for the win. Nonetheless, another poor performance from him. Despite the comeback, we end up with yet another loss for James Franklin in a big game where it's like clockwork, right? James Franklin, in a moment like this, for whatever reason, he's just, you can see it on the look on his face post-game when that interception in overtime happened. He was dumbfounded because they're in a position in that atmosphere at home. Wide out at night, fantastic college football game. And Oregon goes on the road and wins. Just like they did in the Big Ten championship game, albeit a meaningless championship game last year based on where the college football playoff rankings and how they were set up, because Penn State ended up with a better path than Oregon. But this, yet again, deja vu, except Oregon celebrating on the road in their home stadium. This was this past January where Franklin and Penn State, they lose to the Ducks, and the celebration is happening right outside the press conference.
Great. We can start right here in the front row.
How's this a smart setup?
Yeah.
This is for Drew.
Frankly.
We can hang tight for just a second. We'll try to get that audio
Oregon
turned down
celebrating
next
right
door.
outside post-game presser.
How is this a smart setup?
How is this a smart setup? I mean, another big game.
He's not wrong.
I know he's not.
I got no issue with them celebrating, but this is kind of a JV setup.
That's really funny.
And the frustration because a big game, chance to win the Big Ten championship, Penn State, and they don't get it done. They lose to Oregon in Oregon's first year. Oregon's second year on the road. Here is Dan Lanning and the Oregon Ducks coming into Happy Valley. As the Big Ten champs, they get it done. And yet another big game loss for James Franklin. Except he owns it right here.
After everything that's happened versus ranked teams, how do you personally maintain your belief?
Yeah, again, I kind of look at the entire picture. I get that narrative, and it's really not a narrative. It's factual. It's the facts. I get it, but I try to look at the entire picture and what we've been able to do here. But at the end of the day, we got to find a way to win those games. I totally get it, and I take ownership and I take responsibility.
man, he's done everything possible offensively to set them up for a victorious moment in that type of situation. Drew Aller, when he took over, I mean, they'd been through Trace McSorley and Sean Clifford, and they get Aller. Perbula's now lighting things up in the SEC, and Aller continues to not capitalize on the spotlight. You know, he's had some poor performances against the top teams. Ohio State comes to mind a couple of years ago. Last year in the semifinals, we know the poor interception in overtime was awful. And now in year 3, they've gone through what was 2 years ago blamed on conservative offense. They bring in Kansas's offensive coordinator and made some moves in order to set everything up. They completely changed their wide receiving core at Penn State through the transfer portal. Still not working. Despite what was a solid comeback, James Franklin now, again, his record, it's well known. He's 1-10 against AP top 5, 3-15 against the top 10, and now in the top 25 games, 12-18. If you're comparing that to some other coaches, it's Lincoln Riley, who's 4-6 against top 5 teams for his career. Kalen DeBoer, 1-1. You've got the top 10, 4-1, Kalen DeBoer. Dan Lanning is 2-3 after this past weekend's game. Ryan Day, 10-6, and we know the pressure that's on him against AP top 10s. Lane Kiffin, 8-24. Steve Sarkisian, 6-17. That's the tier that he's on, but he's always been in a spotlight moment with the last 5 years at Penn State to take the next step up in an era now without Saban, where he's clearly got the talent around him to do it. And he's in a conference where he can capitalize, where, you know, the big game moments, Chad, they're not every single weekend. But when they arrive, Penn State can't meet it. And it's dumbfounding because they are very talented. I wouldn't want to play them, but I know there's an edge going into that game. If I'm on a top-tier team or on the top-tier sideline, I've got it. Lanning said, that the crowd is worth, 7 points, but they weren't worth that tonight.
Yeah.
That's true, because it happens every single time now. And even James Franklin is saying it's a fact.
2 things. One, I'm in love with Dan Lanning. The dude is awesome.
Oh.
And his post-game on the field was incredible.
Yeah.
And I love how he runs that program, and I love how that Oregon program has gone from this feeling of they got to gimmick people and, outspeed everybody to that is a tough, physical football program. And I love what he's done with Oregon. Love him as a head coach. 2, the way James Franklin handled that question about the narrative around him not winning the big game was brilliant. It was great. It was the opposite of Brian Kelly. And the way he handled a question about his offense, I love that accountability from Franklin.
It's the opposite of how he handled an off-the-field incident, right, last year?
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, in the presser. But so I've said this about Kalen DeBoer in Alabama. You mentioned Dan Lanning. Dan Lanning has taken Oregon. You mentioned how they've changed. There's no more gimmick. It's not like a Chip Kelly type feel to it. There's an SEC feel to it, is how I would describe it. There's a Big Ten feel to West Coast football. Chad, that's what I've seen from Kalen DeBoer, except the opposite. I felt like Alabama was kind of looked like a West Coast team, except for on Saturday, where like you could bet on Penn State losing a big game. You can bet on Alabama having Kirby Smart's number. That it was always Saban. Now it's Bama. And I know that Georgia's got the head-to-head national championship, but Chad, the way that the Crimson Tide won was reminiscent of the era that we're used to, instead of the recent memories of teams that sloppy play, penalties, undisciplined, not the things that we like. That wouldn't happen under Nick Saban. It didn't happen Saturday. And Ty Simpson, the winning quarterback of that game, comes out as a Heisman favorite. And some books have him as the Heisman favorite now. What a performance on the road, where he stayed 3 years as a 5-star quarterback. And he, before the game, said, this is why I stayed, for moments like this. And then he arrives and meets the moment. Unlike some top-tier quarterbacks across college football. Bravo. hats off to him. Hats off to Bama in this game. And Georgia. Well, I mean, just overall, just if you're a college football fan, it was so much fun to watch.
370-pounder scores a touchdown for Alabama.
Dude,
kind of sums up the game to Caden Proctor. Brilliant. Loved it. And that's what we expected to see from Bama against FSU.
Yes.
But look, at Bama, I mean, that was an awful start to the season, and it got everybody talking. But that's a program built on big games like this in the SEC and winning those big games. Kirby Smart's now 1-7 against Bama. That's crazy because he has dominated everybody else in the conference, everyone else nationally, except for that one team. And I thought he poorly coached that game. I think Kirby Smart's obviously an amazing coach. I thought he mishandled the whole thing. Kick a field goal and tie the game up. Don't go for it on 4th and 1, a long one in that moment. You had the drop touchdown also that would have been a difference maker.
Yep.
Georgia had every opportunity at home to win that game, and they didn't make the plays. Credit Ty Simpson, who I agree, Hutt, looks like the perfect fit for Kalen DeBoer's offense. He really does.
He does.
He looked great in that game on the road. Huge win for Alabama, and now they get College Game Day coming to Tuscaloosa for a big matchup against undefeated Vanderbilt.
This is what I mentioned.
What a moment for Vandy football.
5-0,
incredible,
and a chance for Vandy to take down the Tide. Where again, the quarterback storyline here is Heisman favorite coming out of that game. Pavia will take the national spotlight if Vanderbilt goes on the road and wins.
I'm going to go and give you.
It will be a Pavia game.
I'm going to go ahead and give you my prediction for this game. A lot of points will be scored. Vandy's offense is one of the best in the country.
Yeah.
I feel good about saying that right now. Now, defensively, they just gave up 35 to Utah State. They're going to give up a lot to Alabama. This will be a shootout on Saturday. Not going to give away my winner yet, but it will be a shootout on Saturday in Tuscaloosa.
Yes.
Mark my word. It's going to be 35-plus, I think, for both teams.
I've been trying to set this storyline up. We have it. We have the moment, and now we get to see.
It could be Tennessee-Georgia all over again.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, if it is, what are you doing? You want to go to Tuscaloosa?
Yeah, let's go.
Let's set it up.
Let's rally.
This episode brought to you by Prize Picks. You and I make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this season on Prize Picks, where it's good to be right. Prize Picks, simple to play. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. And if you get your picks right, you could cash in. Prize Picks offers injury reboots. This is huge. So if one of your players leaves the game in the first half and does not return, Prize Picks won't count it as a loss. Simple. You download the Prize Picks app and use the code HOTMIC, HOTMIC. You get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code HOTMIC, HOTMIC. When you download the app, get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. Coming up, Trey Wallace joins us.
Football's finally back. So's the hard-hitting gridiron action on Prize Picks. Download Prize Picks and use code OutKick and get $50 instantly in lineups when you play $5. Must be present in certain states. Visit prizepicks.com for restrictions and details.
It's Hot Mike with Head and Withrow, 6th and Peabody, our location with Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. It's Hot Mike. And we're also a part of Trey Wallace on the podcast world as well. You can
That's
get
right.
Hot Mike Podcast wherever you download your audio, as well as Trey Wallace's podcast. Trey, good to see you, man. Hope things are well.
Guys, good to see y'all. Should be a fun little CFP roundtable this week.
No doubt. And
plenty of items to get to this week. Lots of items.
And a preview of some of that setting up the storylines with you right now. You had quite the atmosphere in Athens. Just you've seen the gauntlet of pageantry across college football so far this season. Where does this stack up to what you've seen? And again, the hype meets the moment.
Yeah, no, it did. I think that anytime you play a night game in Athens, it's going to meet the hype machine. That was one of the more wilder environments, I think, once we got into the game that I've covered in a while. And even though even leading up to the game, you're like, because I think folks were still kind of out on Alabama, but we talked about it last week. This was an Alabama team searching for an identity. And so overall, looking at it, it was very interesting to see the Alabama section, the crowd, the fans over there in the corner celebrating as Bama shocked Georgia and ended their 33-game home winning streak. So it lived up to the hype when it comes to college football. And my goodness, we're set up for an interesting weekend coming up.
No doubt.
Yeah, and we'll get to that game certainly, and if not here, definitely on the roundtable on your podcast with Vandy coming to town to Alabama. I do want to hit on LSU and Ole Miss and just what it means on both sides. That it was a big week for Lane Kiffin. He had the documentary come out. His daughter's dating the starting linebacker for the other team and announces it on social media. He wins with a backup quarterback. That backup quarterback is now thrust into the Heisman spotlight this season. And then for Brian Kelly at LSU. Trey, what in the world happened to that offense? A year ago, all we were talking about was LSU couldn't stop anyone. Now they're solely relying on a great defense and an offense that can't move the football and certainly can't run it.
Chad, they got problems in Baton Rouge when it comes to Garrett Nussmeier right now. He's not the same quarterback as we saw last season. I think you can look at the throwing motions. I think you can see that with the balls down the field and also the other thing too is it's not like he's not in command of the offense, but man, they are struggling so much on third down. You look at it and you're like, wait a minute. We had so much high expectations for this LSU team, and then I look at what they put on the field. Man, they can't move the football, Chad. I mean, they're the problems that they are having right now, the defense makes up for a little bit of it. But if you get into a shootout or something along those lines with a football team, I don't trust LSU right now. And I don't know if, is going to the backup quarterback the right move? I don't know. But I tell you this, Garrett Nussmeier does not look like some first-round draft pick in the NFL coming up that we all predicted before the season started, because I think there's something going on with him injury-related. He was very coy about it post-game, which is understandable. You don't want to get into it. That's fine. But, Chad, I look at this LSU team, and I see 3 losses. You're gonna be able to score enough points down this stretch over the next 2.5 months to avoid that. I think they're freaking out right now in Baton Rouge, as they should. And on the Ole Miss side, goodness gracious, Trinidad Chambliss is leading them and could be a Heisman contender, which I think he will. So totally opposite ends of the spectrum of where we are at in college football heading into this weekend. And Chad, LSU has just struggled, man. They can't figure it out. And if you go back and even look at that Clemson game, brother, like we kind of saw it then, and we definitely saw it with their 2 cupcakes leading up to Ole Miss. So there's trouble in Baton Rouge.
Let's go to Starkville next. From one city in Mississippi to the next. I leave that game, Trey, and watching it, kind of thinking a little bit the same way I thought after the Tennessee-Georgia game. And then I leave the game thinking, okay, Georgia's Georgia. They're going to be really good again. And Tennessee's ceiling is a lot higher than I thought coming out of that game. Then I leave this game and I think, all right, Tennessee's going to have a great offense. They got some problems on defense they got to figure out. Maybe some guys coming back will help them. But then I look at the Mississippi State sideline and I think, wasn't just a fluke when they beat Arizona State at home. This team's going to be a tough out after not winning a single SEC game a year ago. And Trey, how much does that show the value in the transfer portal and what Mississippi State was able to do to really immediately flip some key spots of that roster through the portal this past offseason?
Yeah, it's also no fluke that Mississippi State was playing tough against Tennessee. Like, this was going to be a game. I think if you polled Tennessee fans, they were probably like, yeah, that's our trap game this season.
I certainly believe that the whole time.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I know. But here's the thing. Like, you look at Mississippi State, and you got to give a hat tip to Jeff Lebby for what he's been able to do in a short period of time to kind of turn this thing around. I mean, they're sitting at 4-1 on the season. That's really well. You took Tennessee, to overtime. I think that's why the transfer portal right now in NIL is so important for the college football game. And that's why I also tell folks out there, okay, you want to fire your head coach, you don't like where you're going. Okay, well, just know that a majority of that roster is going to be looking around, and some of the key players are going to be gone next season. And I'm looking at you, Auburn, the fans out there that want to get rid of Hugh Freeze. But I think that with Tennessee, when I look at Tennessee right now, I think, okay, well, there's going to be games like that you're going to have in the SEC every single weekend. And for them to do what they did, and for Joey Aguilar to drive down the field, lead Tennessee, run the ball in, score the touchdown, and it sets up the overtime. And people can get on the hype all they want when it comes to the play call, and that's fine. He doesn't care. They got the win. For Tennessee to be able to pull that out, and most times all the momentum would shift to the home team like Mississippi State, and most times they would sneak out of there. I think it goes to show you Tennessee's growth is continuing. Joey Aguilar continues to be a baller for Tennessee. I know he had 2 interceptions, but one of those was just ugly. It could have been ricocheted off. I think looking at it where we are standing right now, that the win over Mississippi State, I think would be very beneficial down the road, because I can see Mississippi State getting to 7 to 8 wins this season, and Tennessee will look back on it strength of schedule wise, and that'd be a really good one to kind of hang your hat on. So you got to give credit to the Vols for going down there and winning in a hostile environment. Arizona State, Kinley Dillingham couldn't say the same thing. And now coming out of it, I think Jeff Levy's fine. I think Tennessee's fine heading into a bye week before they host Bobby Petrino and the Razorbacks.
So it's fascinating to me. This does not happen with Nico.
No.
This does not happen.
Like winning a shootout where you have to score a touchdown on the last drive. Yeah.
Doesn't happen. And I mean, they were going into a year with him. Had he it's interesting how everything has aligned. And Heupel has, again, he ends up with Hendon Hooker over Milton. He does it, and credit to him. He's had this quarterback ready, but this is the perfect spot in this moment for Aguilar, right? Like the team rallied around the fact that Nico did what he did, and the guy's meeting the moment despite circumstances where a lot of teams didn't want him. It's a great story that's not being talked about enough.
I mean,
specifically what has gone on with the
it's
turnaround.
Also,
does Tennessee even beat Syracuse with Nico?
That's a great question.
Honestly, like they've had to win and stay in games in shootout fashion against their good opponents. And
if they pay him,
they certainly lose in Starkville in a game like that.
Yes.
They definitely lose a lot worse to Georgia in that game. It's not nearly as competitive. It is crazy how it worked out where everyone thought Tennessee's defense would be the strength. It hasn't been. Their offense has been fantastic.
Well, the other thing, too, is like you look at it, and Chad, you just kind of hit on it, too. They're not scoring 38 points against Georgia with Nico as quarterback. I think Fran Brown's squad would have probably given them a harder run for the money in the second half if Nico was the quarterback. And I damn sure don't think Tennessee would have beaten Mississippi State down in Starkville. It just, look, man, the other thing, too, is the wide receiver. Joey Aguilar has been on campus now. I guess it's 5 months, 4 months, 4 months right now. Yeah, and look what he's doing with Chris Brazil. Chris Brazil might be the number one wide receiver in the SEC, besides that good-looking guy named Trey Wallace at Ole Miss right now. Mm-hmm. So I look at it overall, and I think, dang, think about where you could have been if everything would have just played out and it had been quiet spring and you'd have been here this season. Guys, there'd have been folks bitching and complaining about Nico. Okay, we paid too much money. He's got to go after this year. We got to find somebody different. And now you look at it with Joey Aguilar. It's one of the best stories in college football. It really is. For a guy to come in there after the spring and be able to do what he's doing, he's got Tennessee in a prime spot. And look, they should beat Arkansas. They're going to play Alabama. They could beat Oklahoma. Like, I'm just saying, compared to where we were last year, the crazy part is I trust this Tennessee team more under Joey Aguilar than I ever would under Nico.
No doubt.
I'm watching Friday Night Live when Virginia beats Florida State, and I'm thinking, is Squirrel White okay in that end zone? That was the fastest field storm I've ever seen. Those Virginia students all looked like 100-meter champions as they ran on the field off that hill. Trey, I've watched that thing over and over again, and I mean, the Virginia defender and Squirrel White are engulfed within a half a second of that ball hitting the turf. And I'm thinking, if there was a flag, if there was anything, like they just let the ball hit the ground, and once it did, they're on the field. That was amazing to watch.
I was
Give
watching
us your
that
breakdown
game
on this. That was incredible.
I was writing an article just in case Virginia won in overtime, so I was getting everything set up. And that final play happens, and Squirrel White is laying there on the ground, guys, after missing that. And then it's like something. It's like people are rushing to a concert stage for a big one, in like the general admission section. It's like a bunch of Swifties trying to get up front. All of a sudden, I mean, and that's what you get. By the way, like, this is on a hill. There's no fence, and there were also like 4 security guards in yellow, just kind of spaced out.
And
like,
are they
those guys
okay?
don't have,
Also,
they
those
don't have a
security
chance
guards
in hell. Yeah, they
those
don't
are
have a chance in
volunteers. Those
hell.
aren't security guards.
Oh my gosh!
Well, right. So my biggest thing was Virginia should have look. They were going to get fined 50 G's for it. They should just write a check for 100 G's just to make up for the fact that it happened so quick. And like you said, Chad, if there was a penalty, could you imagine getting 15,000 students off the field like that in that quick a time? So good Lord, man, put up some barriers, some fences or something. Make it difficult for the students to get on the field at least.
And having to resuscitate your wide receiver who's down in the end zone after being trampled.
They don't have to worry. They don't have to worry about that happening too often, though. In the ACC.
And so here's my ACC take right now, Trey. After watching the games this weekend, is there a good team outside of Miami? We're going to find out a lot with Florida State hosting Miami this week. Clemson has been awful based on expectation. Yes. Georgia Tech is everybody's darling, and they should have lost. They won because the daggum ACC officiating crew can't call an offsides when the dude's 3 yards in the backfield. And, of course, Robbie Ashford throws it deep because he's looking at the ref like it's a free play. And it was if they get that first down, the game's over. Boy, what a disappointing conference this year outside of Miami.
It is fascinating to me to see that Georgia Tech is up there with Miami and Florida State coming off that loss. And for all the folks bitching about, why is this certain show not coming and whatever to Tallahassee, don't lose to Virginia on Friday night, and you won't have to worry about that. I look at this overall, and I wonder about Florida State's defense, guys. And so now you look, Miami is the leader of the pack here. Like, Miami's good. Miami should go into Tallahassee, and I know this is a must-win for Florida State because the ACC is so bad. The strength of schedule is not going to help them this year at all. So you look at that game this upcoming weekend. If Florida State loses, 2 losses on the season already. Okay, so you're going to get in that argument with the SEC or the Big Ten, SEC more likely because of the outside scheduling, and say, okay, this 9-3 team is better than this 10-2 team. So I wouldn't have guessed it before the season started. I don't think you guys would have either. I think we'd had Clemson and Miami probably as the top tier teams right now. And you're looking around and you're wondering, what's an ACC championship game going to look like? Like, who is Miami going to beat the hell out of to go to the playoffs? So this could end up, the ramifications, Chad and Jonathan, are you're only going to get one ACC team in to the playoffs this year, and that would be Miami because I don't claim know.
Notre Dame.
I mean, they'll claim.
There'll be a press release sent out to everyone about Notre Dame.
Their schedule got them in.
Valued ACC member Notre Dame.
Our schedule, our teams got Notre Dame in.
Floating our conference.
We claim the Irish.
Notre Dame did Arkansas fans a favor this weekend. As much as we love Sam Pittman, they did him a favor. So, and they were home by the third quarter starting as well. So it ended up working out.
Here's what's going to be hilarious, Trey. Just think about this scenario, all right? 9-3 Alabama at the end of the year, résumé, versus 10-2 Florida State. 10-2 with one less loss in Alabama and a head-to-head win. In that scenario, Florida State could say the first week of the season, we saw that game, and Florida State won. And think about all the SEC homers that'll be going to the defense of Alabama and that schedule. I'll probably be one of them. And then everyone else talking about, well, you lost to Virginia, and the best win you have is at Clemson this year in the Alabama game. That's going to be a fun debate to be had.
We are going to have that debate. I don't care who it is. We're going to, and it could be any SEC team going up against Florida State. But if it's Alabama, I promise you, those folks sitting in that committee room are going to be like, wait a minute, what happened at the beginning of September? I don't remember that. Well, did Florida State win that football? The conspiracy theories will already be flying this weekend if you have a 10-2 team, if Florida State somehow beats Miami. And so, hey, look.
Well, not even beating Miami. They could lose to Miami and go 10-2 with their best win being at Clemson later in the year, who looks awful.
And it'll be a debate between like Missouri, Alabama, LSU, and Florida State.
And let me also say, 10-2 Florida State in that scenario, to me, is way more deserving than a 10-2 Notre Dame with a win over Alabama. Give me that win over Alabama and then a win at Clemson. That's going to be better than anything Notre Dame does.
Florida State lost on Friday night, but the biggest thing that could have happened to them this weekend, besides beating Virginia, was Alabama rolling into Athens and beating up on Georgia.
No doubt.
Like that was it. And so strength of schedule conversation that we're going to have later in the season is going to be fascinating. And there will be arguments and there will be people bitching and complaining about it, but that's why we love it. And until they move this thing a little bit further down the road with more teams, you're going to continue having those arguments.
Here's the tease for the roundtable coming up this week on the podcast. We're talking about 10-3 Bama. That's because Vanderbilt goes on the road and wins in Tuscaloosa.
I mean, you guys, Chad, Chad threw it out, and it's already out there that Vanderbilt's going to get rolled this weekend, and that's fine. Like that's okay. But I told you guys 3 weeks ago it was going to be 5-0 Vandy heading to Tuscaloosa. I didn't know what Alabama would look like, but heading to Tuscaloosa and all eyes. Guys, I'm going to leave this out there for you. Can you imagine
Vanderbilt's
if
winning the game,
Vanderbilt strolls into Tuscaloosa and wins that game on Saturday?
They're going to.
There's a reason why that line has dropped from 13 to 9 in a span of about 18 hours.
It'll be down to about 6.5.
Trey, just because I love you so much, I know I've already made my prediction, but I have not given a score. I'm going to give a new score prediction, but I'm going to save it for your podcast and our college football roundtable discussion. This is going to be an exclusive. I'm going to give you – I've got the exact score. I may bet this exact score somewhere of Saturday's game.
Chad's doubling the spread.
And my one prediction is lots of points. Lots and lots of points in this game.
If Diego Pavia goes, and I think the lots of points. If Diego Pavia goes to Tuscaloosa, and even if Vanderbilt loses, but he has a really good game, you got to keep him in the Heisman conversation.
Absolutely.
And by the way, I'm going to leave you on that. This game reminds me, and I hate to make this comparison, but I'm going to make it for the sake of your show. This game reminds me of Texas A&M and Kevin Sumlin with Johnny Manziel at quarterback. When everybody didn't really know what Texas A&M was, they went into Tuscaloosa and won that football game. That's what this weekend feels like.
We're going to find out.
Pavia.
Interesting stretch here for Bama before their next bye. Vandy at home, at Missouri, Tennessee at home, at South Carolina. Just look at that stretch, and that's obviously going to define whatever they are in their postseason hopes. But that's a very tricky stretch of teams, and that trip to Missouri looks a little bit more difficult. The way they play too.
And you know what, guys? I think a lot of people are also just kind of glancing over the fact that Georgia's defense is just not that good this season. Like I'm sorry, like I know they held Alabama scoreless in the second half, but it's not like their offense made up for it. And Tennessee proved that you can dink and doink on them and get into the end zone. So yeah, it's going to be a fascinating few weeks for Alabama now.
Or just throw it up to your 6'5" receiver.
Just throw it up there.
That's a good point.
That's what Tennessee's learned. Hey, one-on-one, we'll just throw it up to our guy.
Trey, we look forward to the football conversation later this week at OutKick.
Yeah, guys, I appreciate it. It was a fun weekend up in Athens. A lot of stuff going on, a lot of interviews that are out right now. And, looking forward to seeing what Clark Lee and the boys can do and having you guys on this week. Going to be fun.
Yep, there he is. Trey Wallace. Read his great work at OutKick.com. How about this? Clay Travis in an interview with Paul Finebaum. Wait until you hear what Finebaum is considering doing and why. That's next.
Football's finally back. So's the hard-hitting gridiron action on Prize Picks. Download Prize Picks and use code OutKick and get $50 instantly in lineups when you play $5. Must be present in certain states. Visit prizepicks.com for restrictions and details.
Hi, Mike with Hunter Withrow here at OutKick.com, where you can find the exclusive where Paul Finebaum considering a run at Alabama State Senate. The vacated seat that would be
U.S. Senate from the state of Alabama. Yeah.
Right, in the state of Alabama. U.S. Senate, the vacated seat that would be there for Tommy Tuberville running for governor, and Bruce Pearl deciding not to put his name in the hat for this position. Now Paul Finebaum's been approached, and in an exclusive sit-down with Clay Travis, he said this.
Tommy Tuberville is running for governor. A former Auburn coach who beat Alabama 6 times in a row, and I think it's fair to say he's going to win pretty comfortably, seems to be the assessment. There's an open Senate seat. Bruce Pearl, also at Auburn, had talked about it. He says now he's not going to run. Is that with the conversation? Are you somewhat interested and intrigued at the opportunity of looking into that Senate race? I'm assuming that's what they reached out to you to talk to you about.
Yes. I was very cautious. I didn't take it too seriously. And then ultimately, I ended up talking to someone who made it clear that there was a desire for me to be involved. And this person, obviously, that shall remain nameless, was compelling and compassionate in the approach to me. And I started thinking about it.
This is a person highly up in the Alabama political universe, is that fair to say, that you were having the conversations with?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're thinking about it now. How, when thinking about it, the next step, the steps, I mean, obviously I'm assuming that what people would say is Paul Finebaum has basically 100% name recognition in the state of Alabama, right? I don't think that's crazy. But this other pathway is potentially beckoning or intriguing to you.
It is very intriguing. I am thinking about it constantly. And that's difficult to do, Clay, as you're talking about college football.
Yeah.
20 hours a week debating Stephen A. Smith, as you well know. I mean, you're sitting there talking to Stephen A. Smith, and as you're waiting for your turn, you're thinking, I wonder if I should move forward on this. So it's been going on for a couple of days, or if not weeks, and it's just hard to chisel it down to make an educated decision. But to say I'm considering it, of course, yes. It's something that I can't say I've dreamed about. I can't say I've thought about. I'm not a career politician who had it all mapped out. This is something that just came to me, and it's also very late, and I don't know quite how to deal with it. But as far as your question, would I give up what I'm doing? I would have to.
There's a preview of the interview Clay had with Paul Finebaum in what will be the full interview available tomorrow at 9 a.m. Eastern on the OutKick YouTube page.
Yeah, the main OutKick YouTube page tomorrow morning. Who's next if he says no? Cole Kubelik? Is he going to run? I mean, we're just going down the list of college football personalities. Greg McElroy going to run for Senate?
Yeah. I mean, if they're calling, think about who all's been called. Yeah,
Tommy Tuberville is going to be the governor.
Right.
Bruce Pearl assumed to be the next senator. No. Paul, I'm just trying to mathematically go down the list of possibilities.
And then Dooley,
Lance Taylor.
Dooley with Georgia.
LT going to run down in Birmingham.
Saban's been approached. I mean, let's just keep going down the list.
Yeah.
We've never
What's
seen
Gene Chizik up to? Can he be a senator?
We've never seen sports and politics intermingle like this ever. The president, of course, we've never seen a president embrace sports the way that President Trump has. And now the crossover, Paul Finebaum now, of course, with ESPN, admits in this, he's not supposed to talk politics, at least not allow his conservative-leaning thoughts to enter the ESPN airwaves. He said this, but Chad, this is fascinating because we're we are in the heartland of the sports mecca, right? The Mid-South, that's SEC country, best fan base in the world, and the heartbeat of that when it comes to politics is conservative, and it's not your traditional politicians that are now being involved in U.S. Senate.
Yeah,
it's straight sports and coaches.
I have no knowledge of how good or bad Paul Finebaum can be as U.S. Senator.
I'm saying
this is the Donald Trump effect in a lot of ways. An outsider wins the presidency. No one saw it coming. He's now a 2-term president, and it's got Paul Finebaum saying, "I should be a U.S. Senator from the state of Alabama."
Being called
and being called about it.
Right.
That's again, I think that a lot of people who are career politicians are idiots. So I'm not saying Paul Finebaum is probably going to be a lot better than a lot of them. Tommy Tuberville, not an idiot, probably better than a lot of them, right? But it's just, this is the world we live in now where it's like, hey, you're an idiot. I could do a better job. You know what? I'm going to do a better job. And I'm famous enough to do it, so I'm going to run for political office.
I can't wait to watch the full interview.
I hope it works out. I hope he does a great job.
Available tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Eastern at the OutKick YouTube page. We'll be there doing that, and we'll be right back here at 10 a.m. Eastern.
And if not, we'll have an exclusive with Cole Kubelik. Right after that, as he prepares for his Senate run.
McElroy.
Yeah.
Just go right down the list, Chad. You're right.
Kane Womack, defensive coordinator for Alabama. How far do we have to go down the list to get to him? Probably a few more pegs down the college football.
Yeah, probably. Peter
McElroy's
Kern.
definitely
Peter
up there.
Kern.
Peter got my vote.
Yeah, the man.
Peter Kern's got my vote.
11 a.m. Eastern, Hot Mike, Eddie Withrow. Join us.